Well, I think we've made big improvement just in the physical presence that we've had. I think we're playing with better pad level. I think the guys are trying to be more physical, compete harder. Um, I thought we made big improvement from Saturday to Monday, and I thought we continued the upward momentum today. So it was a little different deal coming in the stadium, and I thought they, responded, and thought it was a good day.
How do you see the wide receiver development? It's such a blank canvas.
Yeah, there's just a lot of young guys out there that are inexperienced, but the good thing is I think we've got some talent. I think the group has got some size, um, and I think they're getting more comfortable in what we're doing. Same thing out there, learning how to compete. The biggest thing with wide receivers when you're young is just learning how to be consistent day in and day out, and how important it is to be consistent, to do everything right all the time. Because if you're a wide receiver and you run a route the wrong way, or you give up on a ball, or you do something, you can have devastating consequences. You can throw an interception or create bad, situations for the quarterback. And so it takes a while for those guys to learn, how to practice the way we need them to practice. That hard and that consistently and that precise day in and day out. So it's a little bit of a learning curve, especially with the young guys. But it's a group that's raw, but they've got some ability, and I'm impressed with how much they've improved. Now we got miles and miles to go, but I'm impressed with what they've done so far.
What have you seen out of Trevor Denbo since he's been on campus?
Really pleased to see him out there competing. I mean, he's athletic. He's a big, strong kid that likes to play physical, that can play a variety of positions. The thing I like about him is what he's done day in and day out is make plays defensively. He's a guy that's constantly breaking up passes or making tackles. I think he's picked up the offense really fast. You can tell he's got a really good football sense and awareness. So I've been really pleased with him, and he's got a kind of a toughness about him. He doesn't say much, but there's a consistency and a leadership, some leadership qualities that I like about him. So we're expecting a lot out of him.
Coach, what's it like for you trying to get familiar with the guys as well as them with you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a learning process. I mean, it always is when you take over a program. There's just so many moving parts, and there's so many things that have to get put into place. And then once all that happens, then you can really start to get to know the players. And it's been fun, just having a chance to talk to some guys, spend more time with them at practice, and then try to get down and get around them, outside of football as much as I possibly can. Good thing is I'm moving into my house this week, and we can start getting the players over to our house and just kind of hanging around the facility more, being close. And that's a big part of it. I mean, the thing about kids now is they'll do anything in the world for you if they know you care about them off the field, and you have their best interests in mind. And so as we get to know each other, that's a relationship that will start to develop, and there'll be a trust factor between them and myself and all the other coaches, and that's just part of the process that takes place.
Delano Robinson now playing safety. So what did you and the defensive staff see in him that led to that decision?
Well, just we think he can run around and make some plays. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Safety in modern football now is so different than safety used to be. That's a position where you almost used to stick guys that couldn't, weren't fast enough to be a corner, weren't big enough to be a linebacker. You could stick them at safety and hide some guys. And today, that's probably the most difficult position on the defense to play, because you have to be physical enough to play in the run game, and you have to be athletic enough to be able to cover slot receivers. Plus, you're the quarterback of the defense in so many ways. That focus has shifted a lot from the middle linebacker that used to make a lot of calls now to your safety. So it's a guy that's got to be smart, mature, somebody who can has some range to him, that can cover and is physical enough to support the run. And I think he's shown that he can potentially do that, and we're liking some of the things we're seeing out of him.
Toby sat out last year, recovering from an ACL. Now he seems to be getting a lot of PT right with the first team.
Yeah, just he's coming on. I mean, I think the biggest thing for him is just getting adjusted, and getting comfortable and getting back out there. That's always the most difficult deal when you're coming off of an injury like that. Is playing with confidence and cutting it loose. And I think so far he's done that for the most part. There's still some times where you see a little bit of hesitation here and there, which is normal. But that's when you come off of that type of injury. That's what you want to see is somebody who has rehabbed enough where they're confident in their knee and they know that they can go out and perform. And he's getting closer to being able to do that.
Brown's been making some really good throws. What would he need to do to push himself?
Well, just consistency. I mean, that's the whole thing at quarterback. That's what I've been really impressed with Ben the last couple of days. I think he's made a big improvement. I think he's really, he looked a lot better Monday than he did Saturday, and looked a lot better today. And Will's kind of in the same boat. I mean, we need for him to be consistent. He's shown flashes. He's got a good arm. He's got a good presence about him for a young guy. He doesn't get rattled. I think that's what you want to see at that position. Somebody who's got a confidence and a demeanor where he can lead a team, and he's shown that so far, and that's unusual for a kid that's really still ought to be in high school. So that part's good. He's got to get better with his footwork in some places. I mean, he's a little bit inconsistent with his feet. Sometimes taller quarterbacks are kind of slow to develop their footwork, and their footwork has a lot to do with their arm angle and how the ball comes out of their hand, and the consistency of the throw in motion and the release point. And so as his feet improve and get better, his footwork gets better, then I think his release point will become a little bit more consistent. And when that becomes more consistent, then then you're going to get what you want from him, because he's shown us enough to think he's got a chance to be a good player.
Came on Freeman in a green jersey today. What's he dealing with?
Yeah, just he got a little bit banged up. I mean, it's nothing major. We've tried to be intentionally physical, and we've beat our backs up a little bit, and so we're trying to back off of them a little. He didn't really have anything; it was just a little sore, and so we'll probably rotate some backs through in green jerseys next couple of days just to keep him from getting hit so much.
Your first season, how much do you expect to give your team in terms of the offense-defensive scheme, or do you simplify it a lot as they're learning?
Yeah, it just depends on the group. How quickly they can pick things up. What we need to be able to do from a scheme standpoint. There's sometimes when less is more. We're trying to teach a lot of technique and a lot of fundamentals, and if you get good at those things, then you can reduce your scheme a little bit. And that's what we have to do to improve our technique and our fundamentals and make more routine plays. Because really, to be a good offensive football team, you've got to, or a good defense for that matter, you've got to become a team that can make routine plays. In other words, you got an opportunity to break on a ball and knock it down, you've got to do that. You've got an opportunity to get a tackle for a loss, you've got to do it. You've got an opportunity to throw a touchdown pass, somebody gets behind him, you've got to get the ball to him, or wide receiver, or same thing with a running back. And so you've just got to get good at your technique and your fundamentals, and then if you can do that, then you can execute at a high level, and when you can do that, then you can reduce your scheme. And so we'll see. It may just depend on the group.
You talked last week about your desire about the strength program and how some of these guys look different. Anyone in particular really catch your eye in terms of physical changes they're making?
I think the entire offensive line. I mean, I think that's a group that we put a lot of pressure on. We felt like we needed to get bigger. I felt like we weren't as physical as we needed to be. So I've been impressed with those guys. I think our young group of wide receivers, there's some tall, skinny kids, but they're getting stronger and getting a little bit more physical and starting to fill out a little bit. And then our DBs were probably the biggest position. I mean, our corners especially, we had too many guys in the 150s, they were just too light, and they couldn't hold up, couldn't stay healthy. And so those guys are starting to get in the 160s, mid 160s, high 160s, and hopefully soon in the 170s. And what that's going to do is allow them to stay healthy. It's going to allow us to practice more physically and become a better tackling football team.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate
Thank
it. Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it,
Okay,
Coach.
no problem.